Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
You have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
I stand here today at the doorstep of one of the most exclusive clubs ever. But before entering, I am forced to reflect on the road which has led me here. It is a road that was paved with sacrifice of trailblazers who suffered the shame and humiliation of a less tolerable society than the one in which I confronted. It is a road traveled not alone, but with the love and support of many. It is now with a great deal of humility and with the full appreciation for what the game has given to me, I am pleased to take my place among the greats of the National Football League. To God be the glory.
All right, with that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Woodrow Wilson Senior High School in Los Angeles, California, for our latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks today, featuring this guy sitting right here beside me, Mr. Kellen Winslow. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and I'm super excited to be here, not only to get out to a little bit warmer weather, because it is cold and disgusting and rainy in Ohio, but happy to be out here in a new school with a new group of students in front of us, all to learn about the great values of the game and the values that impacted Mr. Winslow's career. A little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made this gentleman right here a Hall of Fame football player, but it made him a great person off the field as well. A great person because he had a career after football was over, made him great in all those things as well. So I'm excited to hear how those values impacted your life, both on and off the football field. Before we do get started, I do have some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for all of their hard work and support for this program and giving students all over the country the opportunity to hear from members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Without their continued support, this will not be possible. So thank you to Extreme Networks for everything they do for us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of the teachers, administrators, educators that allowed us to just be a small part of their students' learning experience this year, whether you're tuned in remotely, and a special shout out to all the staff here at Wilson High for allowing us to come into their school and do this program and host this program here. And lastly, I have to thank our students. This program doesn't take place without all of our students tuned in today. I always joke that I've got all the note cards, I've got all the questions I can ask, but nobody wants to hear me ask all these questions. This is an opportunity for students literally all over the country to ask questions to a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So don't take it lightly. It is a true honor, and I'm excited to hear all the questions our students have today. No matter where you're watching us, whether you're watching us live on YouTube, if you are, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're tuned in on Zoom, whether you're a view or an interactive group, or you're live in front of us here in California. If you're taking pictures, because of kids, we know you're going to be taking pictures. If you take pictures and you post them, make sure you tag at Pro Football HOF and at Extreme Networks, and use the hashtag HOF values, and your post might be reshared. So with that, without further ado, that's enough of me talking. I'd like to welcome our Hall of Famer, Mr. Kellen Winslow. Kellen, welcome to Heart of a Hall of Famer.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've always wanted to meet Kellen Winslow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It's nice how that works out.
I've heard stuff about him.
Good.
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
I always enjoy doing these segments because it gives me a chance to, first of all, get out the house and get back into everyday environment of being around young people. I've been involved in higher education. I've done a lot of things at high schools and at grade schools during my days back as a player. But it's always something special about seeing young people in the way that they look at the world and the way that they look at you, sometimes with wide eyes, sometimes with wonderment. And behind that wonderment, a lot of times is how? How did that happen to you? How did those things work for you? Was it easy? In most cases, it's not. It's not. It's filled with a bumpy road, but all roads to success have bumps in them. And so, again, being here today, Jake, with you and with our folks at Woodrow Wilson High School and our fans out there, it's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in this program. And the perks of being the host is I always get to ask the first couple of questions.
Okay.
So, first question, we talk about those values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. Out of those five, is there one that stands out that kind of impacted your career more on and off the field? Or is it something that you saw as, they're all important and they all kind of work together?
Well, they all work together. Like most things in life that we deal with, we think there's one answer, and it's not just one answer to questions that we have. Life is very complicated. The journey of life is very complicated. And the elements of everything that you do or everything that you're a part of and that you are involved in is important because it makes you. That's why I always tell young people, try different things. Always try something different. Don't say, well, I'm going to do this and my mind is focused on that and that's all I'm going to do. You are the totality of your experiences, just like those traits added together make you who you are. You can't have one without the other.
I think it's really cool how those values play off of each other, not only to make you a great football player, because we hear how sports, and we don't have just football players, and here we have students, other student athletes that play other sports, and those values are in every sport, but we are the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so we're going to talk about football.
Okay.
Those values obviously transcend sports, and they can filter into your everyday life. So how did those values not only make you a great athlete, Hall of Fame football player, but how did they help you in your personal life off the field?
Well, you learn the things that you learn in team sports are great because you can use them in everyday life and they're very applicable. I got through law school. I went to law school after I retired from the National Football League, and I got through law school by applying the same principles to law school as I did to being a college athlete and a professional athlete. It takes perseverance. You don't get everything the first time. Everything doesn't come easy. Sometimes you have to sit down and read the same case or same pages 2 or 3 times before you begin to have an understanding of what they're talking about. So if you're not willing to put in that type of effort towards what you're doing in athletics and what you do in your everyday life, it's going to be very difficult to be successful. So it's the same thing. The reason that we have sports, and sports is such a major part of our society. I remember from my freshman class, my recreation class. I learned so much in my recreation class that kind of set the tone for my life. In our recreation class, the professor stood up and said that we spend a third of our lives working during the week. We're awake. We spend a third sleeping. And then we spend a third of our life in a pursuit of recreation of some type. It could be screen time. It could be athletics. It could be just playing different games with your friends. It could be going to the movies. It could be going out to dinner with friends. A third of your day is spent in pursuit of recreation. And when I looked at the world that way, it started to make sense. Yeah, I spend a third of my time sleeping. It's recommended you get 8 hours of sleep. Boom, there you are right there. Then it's recommended that if you have a job, you're working 9 to 5. That's another 8 hours. And the other 8 hours we spend in some pursuit, whether we're reading, whether we're looking at movies, or whether we're having dinner with friends, or whether we're watching basketball or whatever, it's in that pursuit. And when you look at life that way, you can really begin to tell if you're wasting your time doing things, or if it's okay to take a moment or two for yourself to do something that allows you to recreate. And whatever that is a third. And that's why sports is such a major part, or activities is such a major part of our everyday life. And there has to be some room in that area, some room in your life for all three of those things.
Now, you were a little late to the football game in high school.
Very much.
So I remember you were a member of the chess club,
Mhm.
And then didn't play football until, your last few years of high school. Was it something that you just, didn't really have the want to do, or was it somewhere where a coach came to you and say, hey, you need to be on the football team? What was that moment for you? And, looking back, why do you see that as such an important moment in your life?
Well, I went out for football when I was a sophomore in East St. Louis Senior High School, and it was hot out there. And they worked twice a day, long practices, and they restricted water. And I said to myself after the second day of practice, when we had the 2-day practice, you come back the next morning. I didn't come back the next morning because I just didn't see the purpose behind what we were doing. And I went and got a job working at United Parcel Service when I was 15 years old. You can't do that nowadays, but back in the day, you could do those things. I was tall. They didn't ask a lot of questions. I had a social security number. Bam, I had a job. I was a member of the Teamsters Union at the age of 15. But my senior year, my high school coach, who was also my gym teacher, at the end of my junior year, I should say, my high school coach came to me and said that I belonged on the football field. He dragged me out of geometry class along with the assistant head coach, Coach Lewis. Coach Perry's the head coach. And they told me that they saw something in me that I probably didn't see in myself because they watched me in gym class. And they thought that I could be a pretty good football player if I came out for my senior year of high school and played football. And I thought about it for most of the summer and then decided that I'm gonna give it a shot. This is the only time I'm gonna be in high school. I will never get another chance to do this again. So I took a leave of absence from United Parcel Service to go play high school football, and it worked out.
I would say it worked out pretty well. You're sitting here with a gold jacket on. Obviously got to play at the college level as well. So that's a little bit about the guy that's sitting right here, everybody, where he came from and some of the stuff he believes in. With that being said, we are going to turn things over to the students to ask some questions. So we're going to start right here at Wilson High School for our first question. So whoever's got a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Don't be shy. All right, go ahead. Question.
Did you have a mentor?
Growing up, did you have a mentor?
Growing up, did I have a mentor in my field? Yes. A bunch of them. A lot of them. And having a mentor is, in most cases, someone doesn't say, I'm your mentor, and it's you and me, and we're going to do this together. You come about a mentor kind of like organically. It's someone in your life that you may not pay a lot of attention to, but you find yourself modeling after them. My dad was a great mentor for me and my brothers. The way he carried himself, the way he conducted himself, whether it was in church or whether it was at work or whether it was at home or with family and friends, very strong, silent type. My dad, from a historical perspective, kind of opened the doors to a lot of people in public service. My father in 1963 was one of the first people of color to become a bus driver in East St. Louis, Illinois. One of two to become a bus driver in 1963. I was 5 years old in East St. Louis, Illinois. That was a very momentous thing for a person of color, a man of color during that time, was to become a part of an organization that was part of a union labor, that a job that had benefits, and a job that had promotion opportunities. Before that, he and other people of color were not allowed to do bus drivers, was not allowed to be a bus driver. So my father became kind of a respected figure in the community of which we grew up. So he carried that, he understood that and what it meant to other people. My grandfather, his work ethic was a great mentor trait for me to follow. My grandfather, who died when he was 96 years old, always had a crease in his pants. Now, for you kids, if you don't know what a crease is that line that goes down the front of your pants. My grandfather worked for the railroad. And whether it was his clothes that he put on every day to go to work at the railroad, or whether it was his suit that he wore to church, or whether it was the clothes or the jeans that he had working around the house, they were always cuffed and there was always a crease in those pants. So he set that style. His shoes were always shined. So we find mentors in so many places. We just have to recognize that they're there. You, at whichever school you're at, you're surrounded by mentors. You're surrounded by examples. They're there. You see them. You may not understand the impact that they're having on you until you open your mind and say, I like the way he or she, whoever that he or she is, carries themselves. That's having an impact on you. I can name 10 teachers, male and female. I can name administrators who have had impacts on me in just the way they carry themselves. And they were not formally mentors, but they were examples that I saw every day.
It's a great question. And I want to kind of flip that question to talk about when you had the opportunity to do that. Obviously we look at the game of football and we know there's veterans and we know there's young players. There always seems to be that veteran presence in the locker room, especially when the new class of rookies and younger guys come into the NFL. Obviously you talked about your family. I assumed there was somebody that did that for you when you came into the league. So who was that player for you? And then what was it like to become the mentor when, when you're later in your career and those young players are coming into the league?
Well, for me, the guy who really stood out as an example that I should follow was my teammate, Charlie Joyner. When I came into the league a few years ago, Charlie had already been in the league 8 years. And I'm a rookie. He's an 8-year veteran. He had played for the Cincinnati Bengals and changed positions during his career to be a wide receiver. And it was just the way Charlie prepared. He was a consummate professional. The way he prepared for practice, the way he was meticulous, and the way he ran his routes. He was held up as that example. You want to be able to do what Charlie Joyner does. So in that case, Charlie Joyner. On the other side, John Jefferson, who was my other wide receiver the first couple of years I was in the league. JJ just had a love of the game. And you can learn to love from other people. And JJ had a love for the game that I don't think I had when I first got to the NFL. I don't think I had it when I was in college. He loved to compete. He loved the game of football and everything that was about it. And he prepared himself for that. And because he loved the game, he was so exuberant and outgoing that he was a fan favorite, and the fans loved to see JJ do his job. And I said, I want to be like that. I want to learn how to do that. So I learned the love of the game from John Jefferson. That may sound strange. People say, well, you didn't love the game? Remember now, I was still young. This was only my 5th year of organized football. And I'm just learning the nuances of the game. But the love of the game, I got that from John Jefferson.
Awesome. All right, we got another question from our students here at Wilson High. Go ahead. How important do you feel accountability is, both on and off the field?
It's everything. Every football play, for you football players out there, or for anybody in team sports, every time a coach goes to the board and draws something, they want a specific outcome, whether it's to pick up a first down, et cetera, et cetera. But if everybody does their job, technically every play should score a touchdown. True?
Mhm.
Every play is designed to get the ball into the end zone. Or if you're a volleyball player, every play that's drawn up by your coaches are designed to win a point. Or if you're a baseball player, every play that's drawn up is designed to get that double play, whatever the situation is. But in order for me to do my job, I've got to do my job. Bill Belichick, great coach doing the Patriots. And one of the things he's always talked about in his entire coaching career is do your job. And that's has double meaning. One, you need to do your job because it's your job and we're counting on you to do your job. But the person next to you can't do their job unless you're doing your job. And it's really the same way in a community like a high school, a community like a grade school. Everybody has to do their job. Students have a job in this community. Your job is to what? Show up every day on time. Be prepared to go to class. Be prepared to participate in what's taking place in class. Why? Because it makes the classroom a better environment. So if you're not doing your job, you're hurting the entire environment. Where's your contribution coming from? Have you put in the work to come in and prepare to do those types of things? In a family, you have a job in your family. What's your role? Understanding that you have a job and an obligation to your family, and your family has an obligation to you. Now, define family. We find family everywhere. In every situation. It's the conditions that we are under that moment that creates that family. Of course, you have your biological family, and sometimes those work out and sometimes they don't. Then you have your friendship family. You have your school family. Once you're out and working in the community or in a job, you'll have your job family. And you have a role there. So accountability is really everything.
And I think that's cool because you talk about accountability, and immediately, if you're an athlete, you go to on the field.
Yes.
And, a lot of the examples you just gave there were nothing to do with sports. And I think that's the cool part of sports is you get that dual meaning, both in sport and, off the field as well.
Well, the thing about sports, you've got to learn. People have an image of athletes, especially football players, not being the brightest individuals. Of course, we all know in football that those who score lowest on the test play defense, by the way. I'm going to get in trouble for that. I know I am. But it's a joke that we've been telling for years. But you cannot have a low level of intelligence and play sports. You can't. It's not possible. There's so many things going on. There's so many instinctual things that you have to have. And as most coaches will tell you, they're teaching concepts. And once you understand concepts and how those apply to you, there's nothing you can't do. I'll give you an example. I began to understand football when I realized that football is nothing but chess. I grew up playing chess. I was on the chess team before I was on the football team in high school. My senior year in high school, I went to state and with the football team, with the track and field team, and with the chess team. We finished number 2 in football. We finished number 1 in track and field, and the chess team was number 6. So I led it in 3 sports my senior year. But it wasn't until I was a sophomore at the University of Missouri, sitting in a room where a coach made a diagram on the bulletin board, and it just hit me. As a tight end, I'm the knight. And I sat there and I went, why didn't somebody tell me that? If they'd have told me I was the knight, I understood this entire game. That day I had that epiphany, that conceptual learning. It's not memorization, it's conceptual learning. What do I know and how can I apply it with other things? And I realized that I was the knight. Jake, I understood the game of football, how it works. I understood what I was supposed to do and why I was supposed to do it. And I understood what everybody else did. And the whole game slowed down for me. And as teachers will tell you, and coaches will tell you, and parents will tell you, through experience, things will begin to slow down for you, and you begin to understand why you're doing certain things and how they apply to your life at that moment and maybe in the future. And then when it slows down, you can move in that world a lot easier.
All right. Well, at the beginning of the program, we talked about what we believe in at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our mission is to honor the greatest of the game, and at our core, it's to preserve its history. At our core, at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we are a museum that showcases the history of the great sport of football. So we thought, what better way to showcase that history than send it live into our museum in Canton, Ohio, where we have the Director of Youth Education Leadership, Jerry Shockey, who's there to showcase some artifacts, an artifact that's probably going to look very familiar to you. So whenever you're ready, go ahead, take it away, Jerry.
Let's see it.
All right. Thank you, Jake. And Kellen, good to see you, my friend. Hope all is well with you. And students that are tuned in, there that are live, that are tuned in across the country, what a wonderful opportunity you get to hear, to learn from one of the greatest ever. And I want to give you an idea of just how elite Mr. Winslow is when we talk about the game of football. And think about this just for a second. Since football started at any level, there have been roughly about 300 million people to play the game of football. At the collegiate level, about 5 million. At the professional level, there have been about 29,000 people that have paid to play, coach, officiate, or administrate the game of football. There are only 371 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That gives you an idea of just how elite the gentleman that you have sitting in front of you is. But Mr. Winslow, I got a question for you here today because as we look at your bronze bust behind here, I think something important for students to, and you're never too, as a father with a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 2-year-old at home, my 2-year-old is still a little too young, another year or two, but always to talk about legacy. There is a legacy being left here, but I know for you, it's so much bigger than just this bronze bust and being a great football player. Can you talk with the young people about legacy, what that means to you, and what kind of legacy you want to leave, today, but ultimately, obviously, when we depart this earth as well, what kind of legacy do you want to leave, and how has the Hall of Fame helped you, and how's that bronze bust helped you to really make that imprint in this world?
That is a very good question. And I have grandchildren now, and I think about my grandchildren every day, and not just what I could leave them from a financial standpoint, but also what impact that I could have on their life, something that they could draw on a daily basis. I shared the story of my father being one of the first 2 African-American bus drivers by state transit, the St. Louis, Missouri, East St. Louis bi-state transit system. And that impacted my life. That moment that he got that job, and it's something that I talk about because it's part of his legacy, and which became part of my legacy. I have an uncle, his brother, who was awarded medals by President Lyndon Johnson because he was a B-52 bomber pilot, Tuskegee Airman. And knowing that history, it kind of forces you to be.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties here in the room. So we're going to mute our microphone here real quick, and then we'll be back with you here in a second. All right, we're back. Continue.
Well, legacy is so important because it helps those who come after you to understand what they're a part of. You know, we talk about Ancestry 23 and everybody's doing the genes and, you know, where am I from? To have that first generation knowledge of what you're a part of and who your ancestors are and the goals that they set for themselves and the dreams that they have for youth is so important. So I think about legacy a lot, especially with my grandchildren, and I try to set a good example for them.
And students, I think, you know, as you think about legacy, you know, Aeneas Williams once said, one of our Hall of Famers once said, you know, begin with the end in mind. And, you know, as you start thinking of your legacy and how you want to be remembered, it starts shaping your actions now. And so I encourage you guys, students, to really meditate on that, you know, those things. What do you want to remember by as a student, as an athlete, as a person? You know, when you graduate high school, what do you want your legacy to be even at the high school as you graduate? Those kind of things. So, Kellen, thank you very much. Appreciate you always. You do so much for not only for the Hall of Fame, but specifically for our youth and education department. Anytime we call you for something, you're always there for us. So we greatly appreciate you. Good seeing you. And Jake, I'll send it back to you.
Good to see you again.
All right, thanks, Jerry. And with that, we're going to go right back out to some of our schools who are tuned in today through Zoom to get some questions from them. So we're going to start with Artesia High School. So there, Artesia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Go ahead and have your students step up to the microphone, unmute, and then go ahead with your question. Looks like we have somebody walking up right now.
Whoever's going to just stand up and talk. You don't have to come up. There. Go.
What character qualities do you believe it takes to be a Hall of Fame player?
What character qualities do you think it takes to become a Hall of Fame player?
I think respect is important, is up there. And not only respect for you, having respect for other people, having respect for the game itself, you have a respect for yourself and earning the respect of others. There are a lot of guys who are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame or guys who I watched play when I was younger. And I cannot think of one that I've met in person where I go, I was disappointed in that person's character, the way that person treats other people. So there's that common thread that they have where they feel comfortable enough with themselves and they feel worthy enough to share, they respect you enough to share with you who they are. And that only comes with respect. And then it's the game itself, how you approach the game and how you are able to convey those skills along with it. Football, education, teaching, administration, high school administration, they're all people businesses. They really are. I don't care how good you are at it. If you don't have that respect and that love for human beings, no matter what their backgrounds, you can't be good at it. You just really can't.
All right, our next question is going to come from Bennett County, South Dakota. We got a 4th grade class tuned in there. So our folks there at Bennett County, go ahead, step up to the microphone, state your name, the grade that you're in. We obviously know that's 4th grade, and then go ahead with your question.
Howard, what events in your life do you believe helped shape you into the man you are today?
Repeat the question for me.
What events in your life helped shape who you are today?
What events in my life?
You can put up here if you want to listen.
One was the decision to play football. I was probably 5 minutes. I can remember back to a point where that decision within 5 minutes to rather stick with football when I was a senior in high school or to leave and to go back to work at United Parcel Service because it was something I knew I had benefits from it, and I had a job that paid well back in those days. If I had not stuck with it, I wouldn't be sitting here today. When I was a freshman at the University of Missouri, my sophomore year at the University of Missouri, I thought about leaving school and going home and finding a job, and because things were not going well for me at school at the time, I thought. But that was because I was young, I was immature, I didn't know a lot about myself, and I stuck it out. A couple of people came to my defense, helped me out academically, and Fred Wapple, the head trainer at the University of Missouri, who since passed away a couple of years ago. Those type of events, those moments when it's, do I leave or do I stay? I'm glad I stayed.
I would say so. I think it worked out pretty well. All right, our next question is going to come from elementary school. Carl Harvey, elementary, is going to ask our next question. So go ahead there, Carl Harvey, step up to the mic, state your name, and then go ahead with your question.
Good morning. My name is Benjamin. I'm a fourth grader from Carl Harvey Elementary School in Santa Ana. What was it like playing in the greatest NFL game ever played? Chargers versus Dolphins, playoff game 1982.
I'm sure you get this question a lot. Obviously, give us the students who don't know may be asking, why are we asking about a random game that you played in? But give us a little background on the game, what it was, and then ultimately kind of why it's known as one of the greatest games ever.
Okay, who in this room remembers 1982? Nobody. Nobody, but I do, because in 1982, on January 2nd, we traveled from San Diego, California, when we were the San Diego Chargers, to play the Miami Dolphins in a quarterfinal playoff game that defined my life. We jumped up on the Dolphins 21-0 early in the ball game. Things were going our way. And then all of a sudden at halftime, it was 24-21. And we went into the locker room as a team, and we were mad because this team was going to come back and beat us. And we would have been labeled one of the biggest downfalls or defeats in school, in NFL history, and all those negative things would have been said about us. In that game, and you can look it on YouTube, it was like 13 passes. I called 13 passes for 160 yards, something like that, a touchdown, and I blocked a field goal with 4 seconds left to go in the game, to send the game in overtime. But during that game, I lost 12 pounds of water weight and had severe cramps and had some injuries during the year, a shoulder, which still bothers me to this day, and a lower back injury that I was coming in and out of the game a whole lot. We ended up winning the game 41-38 in overtime. And if you go back and the announcers call it one of the greatest playoff games in history. To me, it was nice to be a part of it, but I get too much attention about that game because I wasn't the only guy on the field. I was the only guy being carried on and off the field with injuries. But it's nice to be remembered. And it's something that I share with my teammates as one of the greatest games. In San Diego, people call it the Miami game. In Miami, I guess they call it the San Diego game. But it's what people remember before. And if I leave my house, no matter what time of year it is, odds are I'm going to hear about it from somebody somewhere, from traveling. So whoever is a football fan, they're going to go, oh, I remember where I was when you guys played the Dolphins. Now, the great thing about the sport itself and the game itself, most of them do not recall who won the game. Think about that for a second. Usually you can say they won or they won, and that's what everybody focuses on.
but the effort by both sides, two great coaches, Don Coryell for the San Diego Chargers, Don Shula for the Miami Dolphins, two great quarterbacks, and two good football teams out there battling back and forth. And most people don't remember who won the game. They just remember the event. And to me, that just says a whole lot about how great the game was for everybody involved.
It is pretty cool. Didn't know today that was going to come from an elementary school student from
I
Santa
did
Ana.
not in 1982.
Did not think that question was going to come from there today. All right, we got one more interactive school we want to get a question from here before we get towards the end of the program. So we're going to go to North Ridgeville, back in Ohio, for our next question. So our students there in North Ridgeville, go ahead and unmute your microphone, state your name, and then go ahead with your question.
Hello, my name is Luke Harrison. The question I have for you is, as a kid, did you always want to play pro football? Or if not, what did you want to do?
Like most kids growing up, I had that plan where I was going to play professional baseball during baseball season, professional football during football season, and maybe professional basketball if it didn't overlap too much. Okay. And that's, that was the fantasy. The reality was I played with my cousins and family friends in the streets, and we just went from one season to the next. I had no idea what it took to do those things. But let me share this with you guys. You've got to speak your dreams. It's okay. It's okay to say what you want to do. It's okay to express those things. I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm watching a program. It happened to be the University of Missouri Coaches Show. And I get so excited watching the University of Missouri Coaches Show. I come downstairs and I tell my mother, Sunday morning, we're about to go to church. She's cutting up the chicken. And I tell her, they will not have to pay for me to go to college because I'm going to go on a football scholarship. She looks at me and says, that's great, but shouldn't you play football? Because at the time, I was not on a football team. At the time, I had not even gone out for football. But I told her that's what I was going to do. How did I know? I didn't. I just dreamt it. I felt it. And I told her, yeah, I'm going to get around to it. 2 years later, I did. But I saw myself in college playing football when I wasn't even playing football. You have those dreams. Speak them. They will come true.
All right, we have about 15 minutes left, or I just ended right there with that. I think that's so powerful because it does show, you've been a part of so many things. You've, been a college star. You've been a star in the NFL. You're a member of the Hall of Fame. You gave your enshrinement speech to culminate your career that only 371 individuals get to do. And, it's back to a random Sunday when you're watching a random show and you're saying, you know what? That's what I'm going to do.
That's
and
me.
That's it just goes to show the power of sports and thinking about your dreams and really trying to reach those dreams for your career. So we've also got some awesome schools who are tuned in that you don't see up on the screen or you won't see on the live stream, but it does we do have some questions from them as well. So this is a question from Bree, who goes to Maple Heights.
Okay.
She wants to know a story about overcoming some type of adversity and how did you get through doing that?
Oh boy. In 1984, I suffered a severe knee injury to my right knee in a game against those Raiders. See? The bell right on time.
They knew.
You say Raiders and the bell comes out. Against the Raiders at a game at home in San Diego. And the initial reports from the so-called experts was that it was a career-ending injury. Some people thought I'd never come back. Those who said I would come back thought I would never be the type of player I was before. Again, you've got to believe. You have to ignore naysayers. You have to get away from negative people.
Attention, can
Sorry about that. We've seen, just was saying, we've seen everything this morning.
Yes.
Announcements, fire alarms, bells, everything.
And that's life. You're going to have interruptions, but you continue to push forward. You don't let those things distract you, or because sometimes they're little things. And
it was a great moment for a question about adversity.
Exactly. But in 1984, I had the knee injury. Some people said I would not come back. Those who said I would come back and not be the player I was before, just naysayers. I didn't listen to them. I didn't read the newspaper during that time. And whenever I left my home, I made sure I had a smile on my face because I knew that I was going to come back and play. I knew I was going to come back and be a decent player. And what anybody else said didn't matter. And that's the way I approach things in life. You're going to have adversities. They're going to come. It's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it. And if you have confidence in yourself and faith in yourself, and you got a good support system, you can overcome anything.
Got another question here from Sauter Elementary School. What life skills did football teach you?
Wow. What life skills? Perseverance, work, the work ethic. There's no such thing as being the best, or I'm the best I'm ever going to be. There's always room for improvement, and teamwork. There's nothing that I did or nothing. I can't wear this jacket without thinking about my teammates, because without them, I'm nothing. I'm just a tight end running down the field. Who's throwing me the ball? Who's blocking for the quarterback? Who's running the other routes? Without them, you're nothing.
You mentioned earlier about some of the Charlie Jr. playing with Charlie Jr. Obviously, your quarterback for majority of your career was Dan Fouts, also a Hall of Famer.
For my entire career.
Your entire career. So playing with guys like that, playing with fellow Hall of Famers, you know, obviously it's great during their career because they're great athletes. But what is it like after being enshrined when now your teammates kind of back together, but on a different team that you can't be cut from, you can't be let go from, being with those teammates again now in Canton, Ohio, as a member of the Hall of Fame?
It makes it even more special. There's what, 317 of us?
371.
371. I am number 180 of those 371. I always will be number 180. My football number is 80. Should I play the lottery?
I think so.
Those numbers are lining up. I just thought about that. I'm number 80. But you're only as good as the people around you. Okay? You should think about that. Think about your friends. Think about the people that you hang with. Are these lifetime friends? Are these people who are doing things that you're proud to be a part of, or that you think is going to benefit you in your future? You're only as good as the people around you. My quarterback is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My wide receiver, Charlie Jr., is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I played with two other guys who probably deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In college, I played with some of the best who ever played the game of college football. In my life, I've been around some of the greatest people. I've met some of the most influential people in this country through the game of football, and have got a chance to sit at their feet and to learn and to be influenced. I surround myself with good people. If I take the time to introduce a friend of mine to another friend of mine, it's a guarantee that they're going to hit it off because I only know good people.
And then, so you become this great player in the NFL. Some of those talking heads say revolutionize the position of tight end. When you look at players today, the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles of the world, who are those all-around tight ends, the blocking, receiving. You even played special teams throughout your career. What is it like to look back and kind of see a little bit of that Kellen Winslow flair in some of those great tight ends today?
I enjoy watching them play. I really do. I happen to be the tight end that Don Coryell decided we should take out the fullback and put a second tight end in. There are many guys before my time who could have done the things that I did when I was in the NFL, but the system just wasn't set up that way. I happen to be that guy, that continued blessings that I've had in my life, who was with Don Coryell at that time in San Diego when he decided we're going to take out the fullback and put in another second tight end, and that was me. So I've been very blessed.
What is it like to have a guy like Tony Gonzalez, who, just got enshrined here a few years ago, say he looked up to you when he was coming up as a young football player, playing the same position? What does that mean to you when you actually have that jacket on and then a fellow member of the Hall of Fame says, I looked up to you when I was growing up?
It's an honor. It really is. It becomes part of the legacy. We talked about legacy earlier, of tight ends who saw you play during that time. But again, I can't take credit for that. I can't take credit for that. I can only be thankful for the blessings that I was that person at that time in that place and location, and that I worked hard.
I think it's cool. And one last question here before we get to our final one. I always like to talk about we've mentioned respect today. And obviously in the game, in this room, in the game of football, while you're playing it, there is a level of respect between the players. Now, obviously you're going against each other, so there may be a little trash talk here and there, but at the end of the day, there is a level of respect for the person across from you. When you get to the Hall of Fame, and for those of you that don't know, there's a luncheon that happens during Enshrinement Week in Canton, Ohio, where only Hall of Famers are allowed to be at. No staff members, no media, nobody else. It's if you have a gold jacket, you're allowed to be in that luncheon. And you sit into that with some of the greatest to ever step on a football field or work in a front office, guys you played with, guys you played against. What's that level of respect like in that room between all the members of the Hall of Fame?
It really is no different than what I see here in the room today. The fire team over here, the police officers over here, they've got a camaraderie. They understand what each and every one of them has to do to be a part of that, to meet that standard, to get into the program and to stay into the program and then to finish the program. It's the same thing in our luncheon when I'm sitting with Emmitt Smith or Ronnie Lott or, give me a Raiders name because I'm not.
Howie Long.
Howie Long. Thank you. I have a blog about the Raiders. We play twice a year, every year, and the whole thing like that. But anyway, it's just that mutual respect. All the macho comes down, and we're just guys who happen to play the same game. Some of us at the same time, but we all understand what it took to be successful. And we respect and care for each other.
Awesome. Well, my final question today, and before I ask that, I do want to thank you for giving your time out of your busy schedule to be a part of the program today. And again, thank the school here for all the hospitality we've had this morning. Final question here, and we kind of like to wrap every program up like this because it's a good way to send everybody out the door with that kind of one final message.
Okay.
Be something you've talked about already, if you want to reiterate, or something we haven't touched on. But what's that one thing you want everybody to leave with today? If they can only remember one thing. What's that one idea, that one concept, that one nugget of information you want folks to leave with the program with today?
Ooh. Let me say this, and I hope it's taken in the spirit that it's meant. You are responsible for yourself. You're responsible for your successes, and you're responsible for your failures. Try as many things as you possibly can because you are the totality of your experiences. Don't get focused. Don't get forced into saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. We are who we are. Travel. You've got to travel and understand how you fit into the world that you live in. And that comes from travel. And that comes from exposure. And the more you read about places and the more you go to places, the better human being you're going to be because you begin to understand that we're all the same people.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series connected by Extreme Networks featuring Hall of Famer number 180. We learned today here, Mr. Kellen Winslow. Let's give Kellen a big round of applause for being here today. Again, thank you so much for giving the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of the program today. I want to thank all the students and staff here at Woodrow Wilson High School who allowed us to be at their school today, allowed us into their doors to be the host of the program here today. And a final thank you to all of our schools who tuned in. So for myself, Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow, and all of our staff back at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, thank you so much. We hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.